Hello, I'm Paul, and in this video lesson I'm going to give you a quick guided tour of the Photoshop Elements interface and show you some of the more useful and important tools and commands you'll encounter when using it to edit and enhance your photos and to create digital art. As you can see, we've got a main image loaded in the main interface here. We've also got a project bin, and project bin is unique to Elements 9 in the sense that you don't get it in the full version of Photoshop, and it just allows you to preview all of the images you've got open so you can access them quickly just by double clicking and scroll between each image. You can also do this by pressing Ctrl Tab on your keyboard just to scroll through them as well, but being able to see them, especially when you've got lots and lots of images open and you're maybe combining lots of images, it's handy to be able to see them in the project bin. If this isn't open, you can find it up here in Window, Project Bin, like so. We can turn it off and turn it back on. So there's our main editing window, our project bin, and over here we've got our various edit modes. We're in full edit mode, and this is the mode you're most likely to use for anything more than the most basic photo editing. If you're new to Photoshop Elements, or if you just want a helping hand, there's a quick mode which allows you to see how things are adjusted just using some very basic sliders, a smart fix slider, shadows, midtones, color sliders, and color balance sliders, for example. And there's also a guided edit mode. So if you're not sure how to do something and you want to crop a photo, sharpen, lighten or darken, enhance colors and so on, you can do that in the guided mode here. But as I say, you're more than likely, once you've got the hang of these things, to do everything in the full edit mode. And the other thing we've got up here is a create tab. If you want to create anything from prints and books to photo stamps, even a slideshow. And there's also a sharing tab for emailing, creating various albums, sharing on Flickr, sharing to Facebook and so on. But again, that's beyond the remit really of this overview. I'm going to go back to the edit mode, and the next thing I'm going to look at is the tools palette, which is over here. And this is the palette. These are the tools you'll be using time and time again. And the tools you find here are the tools that require you to interact with the image in some way. They require you to actually click on the image, and I'll go through these, certainly the most important ones, over the next few minutes. Okay, so the tools palette can be roughly divided into different areas. There's the sort of zoom and move tools here, selection tools here, some editing and enhancing tools here, and some brush tools down here. And I'll talk through some of the most important in a bit more detail and just give you a general overview. The zoom tool is the one you'll use a lot. If you select that, and you can just click on the image to zoom in, or hold down the Alt key to zoom back out. You can also fit to screen up here, or zoom in 1:1, which is 100%, and zoom right in. Now if you zoom right in and you want to see a different part of the image, hold down the space bar and then click and drag just to move the image around to see what's there. If I go back to fit to screen, the hand tool, again, this is the move tool. It does the same thing. So if I zoom in just quickly and grab the hand tool, you can see it allows me to move the image around. And the pipette tool, I won't go into any detail. It allows you to essentially select a colour from an image and use it in a different part of the image, or perhaps in a different image altogether. The next area are the selection tools. The ones you'll want to use are Magic Wand tool, which is very automated but fairly clunky. It isn't very good at making selections between areas that are very similar in tone, like the sky and the sea. You can see if I click on there, it's tried to select most of the sky, but also some of the sea. So I can Control Z to undo that. Better are these tools here. There's the lasso tool, which allows you to make a hand selection like so. I can right click in anywhere in there just to deselect it. There's also the magnetic lasso tool, which sort of clings to edges, and this is far better, far more accurate than the Magic Wand tool if you want to get closer in. Obviously I'd do this zoomed in if I was doing it properly, but it does a fairly good job of clinging to edges, and you can make your selection like so. Again, right click anywhere to deselect. And then there's the polygonal lasso tool, which is a bit more manual. If I zoom in, you can see you can select the polygonal lasso tool and you can click and drag to make various points and select them manually. And again, this is even more accurate because it allows you to go around edges, and you can be as detailed as you like doing this and spend as long as as long as you like doing it. And you just have to remember to join things up at the end, so we've made our selection there. The advantage of some of these tools here over Magic Wand tool is that you can refine the edge and soften. You can soften the edge and make it smoother, and you can also contract and expand it so it doesn't eat into the sky, so you don't get a nasty bright halo around this castle, for example, just by using the contract and expand slider there. So I'll just cancel that and I'll right click to deselect. The other selection tools we have, which are quite useful here, is the selection brush tool and the quick selection tool. The quick selection tool is arguably much better than the Magic Wand tool because it allows you to be a bit more refined. If I fit to screen and I select my quick selection tool and set my brush size to something reasonable, I can then draw over my sky to select it, and if it goes too far I can click on the minus up here and then just draw to take out that bit of selection. You can see it allows you a bit more control over what it is you're selecting. If I just right click to undo that, deselect, the selection brush tool is very similar, although this is entirely manual, so you actually have to draw over the area to select it. And again, if you zoom in and go around edges, you can do this with a much smaller brush in quite fine detail if you want to. So I'll deselect that. So those are our main selection tools, and one reason why you might want to use a selection tool, if I perhaps go to the quick selection tool here as I did before, just select everything. I've selected too much sky there, so I'm just going to just delete that like so. Let's say refine the edge how I want it so it's a nice soft edge, and I might want to just darken this part of the image but not the foreground, and I could do that by creating an adjustment layer, a levels adjustment layer like so, and just dragging this slider in to darken up the shadows, to reset the shadows in the sky, and just darken things up and make it a bit more moody like so. You can see why doing that has changed the sky, darken the sky. If I click on this icon here, this is the visibility icon and the layers palette of this levels adjustment layer I've just created. I can turn that on and off to see how the sky has become darker without affecting the foreground. Now, moving down to these tools here, the next one you might want to look at is the straighten tool, and this is very easy to use. You just click and drag on a bit that you want to be horizontal or vertical, and hey presto, it straightens up the horizon just by rotating the image. The horizon obviously wasn't quite straight. Now this leaves some borders, white borders. To get rid of these, easy enough, just grab the crop tool. When you grab the crop tool, you've got some options for the aspect ratio. Usually you'll set use photo ratio, so you can ensure that your crop is the same shape as your original image. So you click and drag to select the whole thing, and then drag the corners in to make your crop, and just crop out either any background you don't want or these white areas that I've created by straightening the horizon. When you're happy with the crop, you just click the tick, and there you have a cropped version with a straight horizon. Now the other tool you'll use a lot in this area is the spot healing brush and the clone stamp tool. Now a spot healing brush is perfect for sensor spots or for blemishes in portraits, and if I grab the zoom tool to zoom in on our image, you'll see a sensor spot in the top there that I need to get rid of, and also in the reflection down here. So if I grab the spot healing brush, and all I need to do is use the square brackets on my keyboard to make the brush smaller or larger, or I can use the slider up here, get a brush size that's suitable, and then click. Oh, I'll tell you why that's not working, because at the moment I've got my levels layer selected, which is just an adjustment. This isn't the actual image. So if I click on the background, make sure that's selected, and then click, and you see my sensor spot's gone. Same with that one. And you can go around the image using the spacebar to find any more sensor spots. Now, the spot healing brush is brilliant for spots, but when you get close to edges, it sometimes clones out a nearby edge and makes the whole thing not join up quite properly. So if you're having problems with the spot healing brush, you can use the clone stamp tool instead. And to use this tool, you want to, let's say we want to clone out this area here of seaweed. You simply hold down the Alt key to target an area of water here, press click to clone it, and then move across to paint out your seaweed. So both of those tools are very useful for cloning out things you don't want in your image. And moving down to some of the paintbrush tools. I'll actually have a look at those in a bit more detail. These are some automated tools. This is a smart brush tool that allows you to change things in various images like portraits, black and white and so on. Things like pearly white teeth or spray tan, and essentially allows you to brush over teeth to whiten them. And you can do the same thing with a detail brush tool, but by adding and taking away, so it gives you a bit more control over the selection, the adjustments. Arguably the most important tool down here is the brush tool. I'll have a look at that in more detail in a minute because this is essential for creating layers. Masks, these are a bit more gimmicky. There's the Impressionist brush tool, which allows you to give the image the look of an Impressionist painting. Colour replacement tool, which allows you to replace colour while you're painting over it, and a pencil tool, which is much like a small brush. Now, a tool you will use, if I zoom back out again to fit to screen, is the dodge and burn tool, and probably to a lesser degree the sponge tool. The sponge tool allows you to increase the saturation of colours by painting over them, but the dodge and burns tools are more useful. Dodging essentially allows you to lighten areas, while burn allows you to darken them, and you do that by selecting a brush of a certain size. That's possibly a bit big, and then setting the areas you want to darken, so midtones, shadows or highlights. Let's say midtones. As I say, this is the dodge, so we're actually lightening, and we might want to lighten the lichen here. Now the key with the dodge and burn is to set the exposure very low. They need to be done quite subtly, otherwise it'll look a bit too obvious. And then you can just gently paint over areas you want to brighten, and you can do the same with the burn tool. Areas you want to darken, you might want to darken the water here, and you just gently paint over that part of the image, and you can see it's just darkening up quite nicely, like so. Okay, if I just quickly run through a few of the other tools just briefly, so you know they're there. There's the type tool, which gives a horizontal and vertical type tool and allows you to type in text, various different fonts and strengths and sizes, colours and so on. It's not as sophisticated as the type tool in CS, in the full version of Photoshop, but it does a fairly good job. And other tools you might want to use, the red eye tool is great for removing red eye from portraits. Very quick and very effective. Just click on the red part and it will eliminate the red eye. Paint bucket tool can be used to fill in areas like shapes and a certain colour. And you might want to use the blur and smudge tool just to blur specific areas by drawing on them. So that's pretty much it as an overview for the tools. The other options you've got are these drop downs along here, and you'll use these various things. Image allows you to rotate and transform, like distort, skew and distort images if you want to straighten up the verticals in a building with converging verticals, for example. You can also crop up here, and you can convert the color profile, and you can set the mode to, say, grayscale if you wanted a very quick and easy black and white. But there's a better black and white option in the enhance menu up here, convert to black and white. And you can also use this menu to adjust the lighting and color, or you can use the automatic options which do things. Some auto options here, or you can take control of various lighting options, shadows, highlights, brightness, contrast and levels. And levels, clicking on levels brings up a histogram, much like the histogram we had when we made our levels adjustment over here. And you can use this to tweak the shadows in the image, the midtones here in the middle, and the highlights, like so. I'll click on cancel there for now. Other options along here are the layer drop down, and this is very useful for creating an adjustment layer, and there are various options here. Now these are the same options that are available if you click on this half moon icon down here. So there's two ways of accessing these various adjustment layers. And another menu you'll find useful is the filter layer. This allows you to apply all sorts of adjustments and blurring and noise, distortion and so on to the whole image. And then you can use layer masks to mask out adjustments to certain areas so that they only get applied to the areas you want them to be applied to. But that's a bit beyond the scope of this particular video. And lastly, we've got the view and window options. These allow you to view things like rulers, if you want to check the size of things. And window you can use to open and close various palette bins and to reset them so you can see what's going on. There's adjustments there, for example, or histogram, undo history, which I already had open, so you can see exactly what's going on in your image. Now, I realise this has been a bit of a whistle-stop tour of the Elements interface, and hopefully you can pick up a lot more by going through the various videos and tutorials in the magazine. But if in doubt, if you're not sure about how to use anything, just experiment. One of the great things about Elements, and particularly Elements 9, is that it's very user-friendly and guides you through a lot of the edits and suggests what you need to do, particularly if you click on the guided options over here if you really are at a bit of a loss.